Hello, hello. All right, hello. I'm Maria Service. I'm trying to figure out what the heck is going on with this hair. All right, so I'm Maria Service. I'm an Akashic Records channeler, past life healer, spiritual guide, and mentor. I also used to work in healthcare as an occupational therapist. Hey, Michelle, so excited. Okay, we're going to have Michelle on as well. And I'm really excited to share more about the movement that is happening. The Divine Feminine is rising. I'm going to invite Michelle on in our live video here, and I'm going to share more. Hold on. So, what is the Divine Feminine movement? Yay, Michelle's here.
Hey,
Hello.
nice to see you, Maria.
Good to see you, Michelle. Okay, I'm going to finish just sharing a little bit more about the Divine Feminine
Totally.
movement. Then I'm going to move into Michelle's intro. So, the Divine Feminine is our ability to tap into this energy that we don't have to be going all the time. 24/7 hustle, grit and grind, force and pressure. I don't know about you, but I spent a lot of years of my life running and operating out of just like hustle and go. And I also found that it was not sustainable, not only just in the workplace, but also just in my business. And I am excited because today I have Michelle joining us. Michelle Blay, right? No silent S, okay?
Yeah, silent ass. It's French.
Oh,
C'est français.
I love it, and especially because I'm actually learning French on Duolingo right now. So
Oh,
good
very
to know that
good.
I have someone I can practice with, or maybe.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah. Oui, I should say. On peut pratiquer.
Okay, now that's over I don't know that one. So I'm so excited. Michelle is joining because Michelle has actually been through my Higher Self Awakening program, but she has also done some of the healings behind the Divine Feminine. And so I'm really excited to have her on today so she can share more about her experience. And also just to note that like the healings that I deliver, that I do, they're not scary. They're not like, what the heck is she doing? I don't know. Maybe they are, but Michelle is a 17-year elementary teacher as well as entrepreneur. And she has this amazing program to help children build confidence and resilience. And we're going to talk a little bit about even just how some of the tools and things that we're talking about here not only apply to us type A adults, but to kiddos. But Michelle, thank you for being on today's live. Do you mind sharing just a little bit about you, where you're tuning in from today?
Yeah, I'm tuning in from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. It is currently, in Celsius, it's minus 31 with the wind chill. So I always have to Google Fahrenheit, but it's very cold here. Like,
Yeah, we're
yeah.
getting a cold burst too, and I'm actually just in Minnesota. So it's also, I think we woke up to 0 degrees, and it's maybe warmed up to like 10 degrees right now. So I don't know, it's maybe not as cold because this is Fahrenheit, but
Yeah,
it's cold.
cold. Yeah, yeah. Lots of us are dealing with it.
So Michelle, I'm just curious, um, do you mind giving some background on, so you did part one of the Heal the Hustle healing bundle that is dropping today, is all about like honestly rewriting our hustle programs. Like we get oftentimes from when we're young, when we're children, especially young girls, but it's like, put your head down, work hard, work, busy bees, think about it. Like we just get fed these different messages. And then we can like become adults and just realize, wow, I don't know how to slow down. I don't know how to rest. So can I ask, before you did the Divine Feminine healing, I know you also were in my larger program, HSA, Higher Self Awakening, but how did this show up for you in your life that you were like, oh wow, like you know what I mean? Like this could support me. How did you know?
So it's interesting. I didn't know what I didn't know, so I didn't know it was a problem.
Oh,
for most
yeah.
for most of my life, it's like my parents both worked. Like my mom and dad would have both been gone to work in the morning before we went to school, so I had to get up, get my sister out of bed, get her on the bus, get her ready in the mornings. My parents both worked really hard, and so same with me. As soon as I turned 16 and was able to get a job, I worked while going to high school. I worked all the way through university. So I was just used to always doing something. So if I wasn't at school, I was at work or I was doing homework. Like that was my life. And then
Literally that I can everything you said, I'm like, yep, I can relate to that. I can relate to that. And I love how like you're even just sharing again, we don't really even see that it's a problem because it's all we've known and it's all we've done. And like it's hard to almost uncouple these beliefs of like, yes, you can have a good hard work ethic, and that doesn't mean you're just like a workhorse 24/7. So when did for you, I mean, I know like, you entered my world, but also we were both in James Wedmore containers. But was it even before that that you began maybe seeing like, oh, wow, is this amount of effort, hustle, and work, is it sustainable? Like where was kind of maybe a beginning tipping point for you?
so before I even started my business with teaching, like this is what I thought was balance. So I put everything into teaching and I would work like all hours. Like I would work all day at school and I would come home at work at night and I would work on weekends. And the past probably like last 5 years of my teaching career, I thought I developed a balance. But this was my balance. I got to school at 7:15 in the morning and I left at 6 p.m. So it was 7:15 to 6, and that was more balanced than the previous like 9 years, right? And so I was like, I finally found balance because when I leave at 6, I don't do anything at night. Unless it was report cards, then I would work till 8 if it was report cards. But for me, that was balance for me. And I was like, I finally have balance. I only work like I only work 12
Like
hours a
11,
day,
12 hours.
right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
12 hours. That's great.
Yep.
And then my mom passed away and my body forced me to take a break. And
Ah,
it was not until I was forced to take some time off work that I was forced into rest.
wow.
And then I, started listening to James Wedmore's podcast, and he also talks about having a balance, right? A balance and not just work, work, work. And I was like,
Yeah,
what?
you're
And
wait a
right.
second. What?
And going to some of his retreats and meeting people, and then the whole even notion of divine feminine came into my radar. So like it I was almost like meant to be here, right? Like I
Hmm.
never, yeah, and I never would have done it unless my body had forced me to take that time off.
And actually, like, I forget that, yeah, for many of us with, I call it the hustle program, and again, because it's just like, it just feels like a good hustle, got to get my work done. And I think too, it comes from a loving place. Many of us feel like I'm here for a reason. I have a gift, or, you know what I mean? Like I have a purpose. I'm here to help people, right? So it almost just feels like, well, this isn't work. Like this is just what I'm meant to be doing. But anyways, right? So it can kind of be this little bit of a blind spot, but I like how you point out, yeah, oftentimes it actually might be almost like a forced rest that you begin to realize, well, wait a second. So maybe, because I think for me, actually, I mean, there's a couple different points, but as you shared, I'm like, oh, you know what? It was like during the pandemic, I had not started my business yet. I was still in healthcare, and I was used to just going. I was like a lead OT. So I was like, again, same. It's like I would work at work, but I'd also come home and I'd be like thinking of ideas and I'd work at home, and I just thought it was normal. And then the pandemic happened and I realized, it was just a different pace. Obviously there was a lot of changes going on, but the clinic that I worked at, we closed for a little bit. And all of a sudden, me and my husband and my son, he was only 3 or something like that at the time. I was like, whoa, this is like a slow, forced rhythm that I've never really had to be in before. And I like started adjusting, started realizing like, whoa, wait a second. I don't have to be firing on all cylinders all the time. But again, it was kind of like a forced major
Yeah.
slowdown. That's so interesting. And so I think a lot of us, like, there might be this event, this something that sort of gives you a glimpse of like, oh, I don't have to be like on 24/7.
Yeah.
So then I know Michelle, like again, then you and I met in the James Wedmore world. And I was like, it's like obviously there's a lot of intuitive people in his world, right? And I'm always like, oh my gosh, let's open this up, let's go, intuition, all the things. So you ended up joining the Higher Self Awakening container, but within that, we talked more about the divine feminine. You did the heal the hustle healing. So can you share with me? I know after you did that healing, you hopped into our Telegram chat and you were like, "Oh my gosh, you guys, that was so good." So what about it kind of like excuse me, stuck out for you? And how did it support you in like embodying your divine feminine?
Yeah. So by the time we had connected, I had opened up to the idea of I want to work more in my feminine. I just am not sure how.
Yeah.
And people talk about take inspired action. Like, so once you can really connect, then you can like be open to, receiving guidance for inspired action and then go with it when you take it. So I so badly wanted this inspired action.
Yeah.
And I thought I was like, you know, by this time I had started my business and
Yep.
I would sit in front of my laptop and I would like do a meditation and then I'd be like, okay, waiting for the inspired action. And then I would just like force myself into work for hours and hours and hours, not really being productive.
Yeah.
I would just, like I would like, okay, waiting. And then I would be like, I'm not getting inspired action. Like I want it, but I'm really just working like all these hours in a day and not really accomplishing it. Like it's forced.
Yes.
So I,
And you're hoping out of that busy work. Like I think a lot of us we hit that phase and are like, God, something's got to stick though on the wall, right? Like I'm sure if I just keep
totally,
working all these hours, as like James would call it, we were probably working in those like employee-based
yeah.
tasks. But it was like, but I just got to stay busy. I'm sure something will
Well, yeah,
pop
and
off
like
here.
if I meditate before, then like for sure it's gonna
Yeah.
happen, and then it just wasn't, and then I did. I know I jumped into like your DMs after the Divine Feminine Healing because I did it, and right away I was like, that felt so good. So immediately it felt good, and then in the days and weeks following, I had my very first moments of just getting an inspiration and being like, oh my gosh, I have this idea, and not even feeling like I could get the ideas down fast enough. I was trying to type them in my notes app and then I voice noted them and I was like, this is what it
Yeah.
is. This is what it is. And I like, people always talk about I get so many ideas. You know what? I just get so many ideas and I go in so many different directions. And I was literally like, I never get one idea. Like
Mm.
everything's a slog, like everything. And I know in your higher self awakening, I also did a lot of healing, right? I do believe there was a lot that was potentially blocking me that I needed to heal, that I did
Yes.
heal in your higher self awakening, that just amplified my results, right? Just amplified.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love that. And I truly think too, like, oftentimes many of us it's like, oh, but I would love to figure out a way where I could theoretically work less and get more and receive more, and like, and we hear these terms correlated to divine feminine, like just receive, just surrender.
Yeah.
And I think like if we're not doing, I mean, there's a reason why I love infusing the divine feminine subconscious healings into this, is because otherwise, like, we can talk about it till we're blue in the face, like, Michelle, just receive, Michelle,
No,
and I can
all these intuitive
swim
people
through.
are just saying it, like just receive, and they're like, I have so many ideas, like I don't even know, and I'm like, literally nothing comes for me. Like when I sit in silence, there is nothing, like not even crickets.
And that's just it. Like, I just think, yeah, for all the women who you feel like you've tried all the things, you've tried the affirmations, you've tried a meditation. I mean, I've had people tell me the subconscious healings that I deliver that are in the Akashic Records, and I utilize Theta healing, it does feel like a meditation, right? So it's meant to feel gentle and not like scary or too whatever. But at the end of the day, it's not just your typical meditation. It's not just me like chatting away, you know what I mean? Like it's really intentional to help women shift those subconscious beliefs. And the divine feminine is a great place to start for women who, I mean, right now, doors to higher self awakening are currently closed anyways, but it's also just a great starter step for women where you're like, I'd love to receive more. I'd love to learn how to like grow and scale my business, but without the burnout, without feeling like I just got to keep doing more busy work and expecting something to happen. Because I mean, I know from my personal experience, and I know for you too, Michelle, it's like, oh no, there is a way for you to actually receive inspired action that doesn't have to feel so forced.
Definitely. That was, yeah. Like I said, until I had done that healing, I had never received inspired action, despite like maybe I had, but like rarely, right?
Yes,
It was like me trying to force it. And so it is something special that you do where it isn't just a typical meditation, a lot is going on. But like you said, it's not scary because as you know, when you first met me, I had a lot of nervousness around like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? What are these healings, right? I had nervousness that I was like honest about in the beginning. And it was
absolutely.
just, it was felt to me like a meditation. However, the transformation after these meditations were different and more profound than I had experienced with other meditations. So you're clearly doing something. I can't explain it, but what you're doing is helpful.
Oh, thank you, Michelle. And you gave me a beautiful lead in because what I want women to know is it is absolutely possible. And I will be sharing more. I'll be going live more this week and just sharing different content in my feed and in my stories, really going kind of like pulling back the curtain, going behind the scenes on why these healings are so important, and how it's going to actually help you really tap into and embody your divine feminine. So I'm so excited. You know, I was going to wrap this up, Michelle, but if you don't mind, I've got one more thought or question if
Oh
you've got
yeah,
time.
definitely.
Okay. It's around like this concept, you know, you've been working in the schools then for 17 years with young kiddos. And I will say, I know part of my hustle programming came from where I grew up when I was growing up, not only just seeing my parents being very hardworking, and that was all great, but even just in school, the pressure on young girls and for boys too, I'm sure, but I identify, you know, just being a young girl. I felt like even my teachers, everybody, right? It was kind of like the focus was so much on get straight A's, get really good grades, perform really well, study, study, study when you're not in school so that you can get good grades. That just felt like the underlying message that was also feeding into my like, oh, okay, like I think I just got to like work more, get A's, and that's like going to bring me all the things. So, are there any tips? And again, so as someone who emphasizing raising resilient, confident kids where it's not just about getting a straight A. So, you know, do you have any tips for parents of little kiddos, little kids, big kids, who like we're trying to raise these confident, resilient kiddos while also not sending them the message that, you know, your only purpose here is to work and work and work. Do you have any tips for that?
I 100% do. First of all, I think that in education, the teachers have pressure on them. And so the teachers, the schools, there's so much
Mm,
pressure coming from
Wars
above to
mean
the teachers.
something.
And then
Mm,
I think unintentionally it comes through to the kids from the teachers. I'm in Canada. Our system is a
yeah.
little bit different, but it's definitely going more towards the US. But there's I know a lot of pressure on test scores and funding goes. So I you know
I've
don't
never
have any.
seen out of that perspective. So, like, thank
Yeah.
you for just bringing that
Yes.
perspective. I wasn't even thinking about that.
Yeah,
Wow.
there is a lot of pressure that comes down on teachers, so unintentionally it comes through. However, and this is part of the reason why I'm teaching part-time now and I'm spending time in my business helping parents is because my belief and what I've always done with children
Mm-hmm.
is helping them to set goals based on where they
Mm-hmm.
are. So, this is where you're at. Let's set a goal based on you and where you want to improve, and then let's track that. So, I have always been not for the
Mm-hmm.
comparison. I want you to get a straight A. never, never, never. I've always been, when I work with kids, is this is where you are right now.
Yep.
Where do you want to get to? And if it like if this person, maybe they want to get to an A, and that's where they're headed, but like from where you are. So
Love
sometimes
that.
as a full-time teacher, that pressure would filter down, and I started feeling sometimes like, okay, I'm saying one thing and I'm trying to say one thing to the kids and help them grow against themselves, not comparing. However, the system is
Yeah.
pushing something very different. So that was part of the reason why I left full-time teaching, and now I work part-time and I work as a substitute and I go to different schools. So I still get to help kids,
Yes.
but I'm kind of removed from that
Like
forced
practical.
pressure of like, okay, let's test these kids.
Oh.
Let's compare all their scores, right?
And I didn't even think truly, Michelle, thank you for bringing that perspective. And if you're listening too, because I think many adults, especially type A women, into personal development, we're doing a lot of inner work and work for ourselves. And I think we're also trying to figure out, how do I apply some of this to my kiddos, right? Because I don't want my kids feeling like this. And yeah, from my perspective, I was like, gosh, why is it sometimes it feels like the schools, they're still emphasizing some of these things. And I wasn't thinking about the teacher's perspective of, even though she might want to individualize it and support the child, at the end of the day, there is this driving pressure oftentimes from administration, from the state, for all of those things. Yeah. So I really appreciate you bringing that perspective. And one, I just got to say, like, I love that you're still doing part-time though, because again, I think change can still happen slowly from within, right? Like, I think kids can still feel supported and seen and not just a test score when they have individuals like you who are still pouring into the school. So thank you for that work that you do. And I think it gives us as parents just some ways that we can like set goals with our child. And even if they are hearing things at school, right? Like, they can still be hearing holistic messaging from our perspective as parents as well.
100%, 100%,
Thank
right?
you.
Just that's your messaging at home, is that we all want to improve wherever we're at,
Yes.
right? So like, what's your next goal?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And working with the kid on that and partnering with them.
definitely. And like, it's not realistic for some kiddos to like get an A next term when they like were failing this term. Like, like
Yes.
what is the next step, like, and not coming down on them, being like, this was your grade, what happened? It's like, okay, what can we work on to get that bit of improvement, right?
Yes.
And like,
Yes, exactly. What's the next step for you that makes sense?
even when your child is doing really well, actually a lot of studies have shown with mindset that especially when your kids are doing well, praising them for, oh, you're the top of the class, like that has even more of a detrimental effect
Yeah.
when they are doing well,
Yes.
because then there's like all these high stakes on keeping it up,
Yes.
right?
And
So
you know what? I love that you bring that up, because literally Hank my son is in first grade. And so like, again, grades aren't that like, it's whatever, but like, he does get a little report card, and we just got those the other day, and it's like either satisfactory, working on it, or below expectations or something like that. And it's interesting you bring this up, and it's a good reminder for me, and maybe if you're listening too, because he did well. He does learn pretty easily. He can do well in an academic setting. And so he got a good report card. And I found myself, I'm like, oh, let's have a little pizza party. We're like, Hank, you did a nice job. And then I was like, oh shoot, like, languaging, let's see here. You know what? As long as you like tried your best, that's really all that mattered. Don't feel like you have to get perfect I don't know. I just found myself catching myself being like, wait, I don't want him to think only when you're perfect and only when you get really, really good grades, then you get a reward. So that I was like, oh, there's got to be, I don't know, another way to like show him good job. And so do you have any other tips for that, or any other way
definitely,
parents?
definitely. Well, first of all, I know you want to like praise them. Like, my sisters and I, we would get paid per A, right? Like,
Oh,
and
wow.
so it was
Yeah.
like a family thing. We would sit around with our report cards and
Wow.
like, how much did you get? And so that, like, the intention was to motivate us.
Right.
However, it created a ton of pressure.
Yes.
Um, and so, yeah, so looking at like where there is improvement, or looking at like what did he do to get those grades? Like,
Mm.
wow, you really must have been really focused during your teacher's lessons in order to do that. And you know what? I bet you just didn't give up when something was hard. I bet you kept working on things that was hard. So focus more on,
I love
like,
that. Pointing out the
yeah,
qualities
like
almost.
you're a hard worker. And also too, like, even though maybe he's so proud of his report card, kind of resist the urge to, like, a lot of kids are proud when they get a great test score, and so they're kind of showing it around to their friends in the class.
Yeah.
It's like that in itself creates pressure on the other kids, but also on them,
Yeah.
because if I'm the smart kid who always gets A's, and then that's how my friends know me, well, then I'm not going to try something hard, because if I didn't get an A, then I
Well,
guess I'm not smart. I guess,
won't get that same, right. Yeah. I won't
right?
get that same
Like,
feedback from my peers.
yeah, so I
Wow.
discourage, like, in the classroom, it's like, no, this is for you to see how you improved. Like, we're not sharing our scores. Like, if
Yeah.
you did really great, give yourself a silent little cheer,
Mm.
but I don't want you to go show it to your friends, right?
That's
And
not the point of,
that's not
like,
the
yeah.
point. The point is that if you feel like you improved, and I always say to them too, I'll, like, ask them at the beginning of the year, the first time we do an assessment, I say, am I going to be more proud of the kid who gets everything right than the kid who
Mm.
gets most of the
Mm.
things wrong? And they're like, yeah, obviously.
Oh,
And I'm like,
it's so ingrained, isn't
yeah.
it?
And I'm like, I absolutely am not more proud of the kid who gets a better mark. I'm most proud of the kid who does their best and doesn't just give up when
Yes.
something gets hard. So if that's you and you got everything wrong, but you put your all into it and you tried your best, that's who I'm most proud of. And so I'm also careful with the feedback I give with marks. It's like,
I love
I
that.
don't give one child better praise than the other based on their mark. It's based on,
Just
right? Like, I saw
who they
you
are
were,
and the actions they're
yeah.
taking.
And wow, I saw you erase that math problem 3 times and you didn't give up. You just kept going, right?
Oh,
Like, I notice what they're doing. And so you can do that at home too, right?
I love that. I really love that tip. And so it's like, again, if you're listening to this live or the replay, this movement of the divine feminine rising, of learning that our worth is not tied to how well we did or how many hours of work we put into something until we're like near burnout. It's not just a movement for each of us within our businesses, within our professional lives, but it's something that can trickle down into the home with our kids, building like just a different culture of just, I don't want to say praising, but just having excitement and celebration around the effort we put into things, as well as I think even just prioritizing fun and joy and laughter to have a well-rounded kiddo, right? Like,
Definitely.
yeah,
Yeah. It's not all about, like, just achievement, right? And like,
well,
oh my gosh, you didn't get as good of a score this time. Like, go to your room and
right.
study.
Yes.
Not that. And it's like, we do put work into things and effort into things, but it's like intentional, and it's like we're trying to improve from where we are, right? Not like you better get an A, or like, yeah.
Yes, yes, 100%. Michelle, thank you so much for hopping on, for sharing with me how you've like supported just healing your own hustle, right? Like prioritizing more rest and receiving within your own life, and how we can also support our kiddos in this. So thank you so much for hopping on the Instagram live today. I really appreciate your time. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it was so fun. Anytime, Maria. I love chatting with you.
Same, same. All right. Thanks,
Yeah.
Michelle. Bye,
See
guys.
you.